Okay, we're starting the Hero build. Um, we're starting the Hero build. I just did a solder video for the PDB, and now I'm gonna tin up these ESCs here. I tinned up all the wires, and we'll get into it. Okay, so I'm tinning up these ESCs. These new little bees don't come with wires on the motor, so it makes it a little easier. So let's tin up these three right here while we got them. Pardon me. I got my medium tip on, like the 1 mil, and then I got the small solder. We're going to go through this real fast here. These three. I hope you can see. Let's see. Maybe it's still in the shot. On and off. Real fast. If you start melting the heat shrink, you're too much time. You're spending too much time there. Okay, there's the ESCs all tinned up. I did the other ones already. The other two. Now I tinned up all the motors, so I only put them on so that I could get a length. I don't like soldering it together while they're all on, so I'm going to take the motors off real quick. And I have this all ready. Here's one. And here's two. Now, here's the copter. That's forward standard NACE configuration 1, 2, 3, 4. So I took off 1 and 4, and those are the clockwise motors. Clockwise. Got me? I'll raise the camera up. So I took off 1 and 4, and they're the clockwise motors. So that means I can solder these up in straight parallel. A lot of times that don't work. Some motors are different, but let's hope these end up being that way. Okay, I'm going to put some weight on here. And we got it backwards because I'm a lefty. And if you look here, I cut the motor wires after I soldered them to the perfect length of the pads. Okay? So here's the other one. I didn't cut it yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this to the perfect length of the pads. Okay? You don't want it too long, and you don't want it too short. Okay, so there it is. Number 1. And this is after I soldered it, not before you solder it. Solder it first, or tin it, and then do the cut. Right? And watch where your pieces go. Cut them off the table. The only reason I'm cutting it on here is to show you. But you should really cut it off the table. Okay, there we go. Alright, we're going to solder these up in straight parallel. And again, I'm a lefty, so let's turn these 180 degrees or 45 degrees. I'm going to put the thing back on. Can you see? And I like using my tweezers for this. after the first one. The first one you can usually get. Again, we're doing these in parallel. And I'm going to set it right on there, straight as can be. And I'm just going to set my iron down right on top of it and pull it off. Let's try that one again. Actually, that one looks pretty good. I'm going to add a little. I'm going to grab my tweezers. Hopefully you can see this. And I'm going to put this on the pad. I don't think I got that one good. Okay. I'm going to add a little onto the side of the pad I like using. Shorten up the wire. Alright, there's one in parallel. Move that out. Number 2. Again, we could probably get the first one real easy. And I go back and get that one later. Clean your tip always, often. And when you're putting them on, it's useful to have a little bit on your tip. Like this. Put a little on there. Because it'll suck it dry. And it helps a good mount. See that? It sucked that all off. I'm going to put a little bit on. And I'm going to go back and do number 1 again. Alright, there's the 2 ESCs with the motor leads all ready to go. So now we can mount these back on the copter and do the other 2. Okay, I put those motors on that I took off that were in parallel. And I'm going to show you, see, I just take my little, I made those wires long on purpose. And I just take this and I'm going to move it, take out some of the slack by just lifting the motor wires like that. You see that? Just by lifting the motor wires like that. And I'm going to lay them down later, but this is so I can get an idea where they're going to be placed on the arm. Okay? So I like lifting them up like that, and it's going to help me determine how long to make my power leads. But before I do all that, I want to talk about this PDB. This is that Maytech Hub OSD PDB with the current sensor and the OSD. And before I close it all up, I should show you how I wired the OSD. I'm using a TBS Unified Pro 5-volt race here, and that goes to this 5-volt. Let me see if we can hold this new board. And that goes to this 5 volts right here I'm using. Instead of using it over here, I'm using this one here. And then my video from the VTX goes there, where it says VTX. And then the video from the camera goes there where it says cam. And then the power for the camera, I'm pulling from the 12 volts and ground right there, the 12 volts and ground. Okay, so that's how that is in there. And here's all the video so that I can get the OSD. This wire right here is my audio, and I bypass the whole board. It just comes from the camera to the VTX because my camera has audio and my VTX sends audio. So yeah, that's that. And now we're going to cut the ESCs, tin them up, and mount them to the pads. But this is how I do it. I kind of find myself a standoff or two, and I use the aluminum ones because if I have my soldering iron close, I can lean up against it without burning anything. So since we're doing these cross-court ones, I'm going to put the standoffs on these cross-court ones across from each other and try to get this out of our way so we don't have to see it right now. Right? Let's see, how can we do that? So we have this ESC, and we got to get it to these two pads. And really, they don't have to go to those two pads. You could really, if you wanted to, run it all the way across to the far two pads, or loop it around to those two pads. Which really isn't a bad idea, because these are so close. You get what I'm saying? And that's why I take my time building. I don't rush into it. And now, when people make boards like this, they don't always fit in the correct ship. They won't fit in every ship. So yeah, I'd like to take my time here a little bit. But that's how we're going to do it, just like this. And again, I just lift up on these wires, and it shortens the ESC up to where I kind of like it, like right there. And if I bring that around to there, doing it opposite corner, which leaves a lot of ESC wire just in case you bust it. You can always pull. It's not a short, tight. I'm going to leave that right there. Okay, we're going to cut that one right there. I'm dropping everything. Okay, and then this one will come across also to right there. And cut that one. Clip it. Spin it. Tin it. Tinned. Tinned. Okay, and now if we remember how we were going to do this, let's do the negative first. And I'm going to use a pair of tip. And we're going to go at it. And how I do this is, again, I put a little on the tip because it likes to suck it off. I just hold it above the pad, not trying to get it super surface mount. I touch the wire and push down hard, let go of the wire, grab the wire again, and then let go. Okay? Alright, so there's one. Let's do one more. Spin it all the way around. I'm going to take off this standoff and move it over here. I'll just put another one on. Alright, I'm going to set this on here. Get the signal line out of the way. I'm going to take my wires, I'm going to pull them up. Just like that, pull them straight up. And we're going to figure out how we're going to run this. And we already know, right? This one is going to come across like this. It's close quarters. Okay. Hopefully we didn't melt anything. Everything looks hunky-dory. Hunky-dory? Okay. Let's put these on so we can take a break. We're going to again do the negative first with the tweezers. Okay. Oh, fuck. All right. And the positive. Okay. I like it. All right. So that's that. Now I'll take off these other two motors and do everything I just did again. And in the next video, we'll install the flight controller. I have a new Dodo here that I was going to install somewhere else, but I decided to put it into this last minute. I didn't want to necessarily put a revolt in here just yet. So what I'll do is I'll swap the tip out, we'll pull all these signal leads out, and I'll clean the holes out and show you how I go about that. Okay, remember I ran the motor to the ESC wires in parallel because these are clockwise motors. Well, now we're going to solder the ESCs to the counterclockwise motors. Okay, or the motors to the ESCs for the counterclockwise motors. And again, trim them so they're ready for the pads. This one I didn't do. We're going to do it right now. Come on out. Oh, there they are. Okay, again, we're going to snip these so that they're the length of the pads on the ESCs. Not too long. Not any longer than they have to be. Or not too short where you ain't got nothing. Okay, here we go. I'm going to put some weight on there. And to make it all goofy and to make everything the same, it really doesn't matter how you do this, just as long as you do it the same. Alright, let's grab this. Okay, I'm going to put a little on my tip. And we're going to start with, instead of starting with the first one like we did on the last set, we're going to start with the center one to the first pad. See that? We put the center wire lead to the first pad. And now we're going to take the last one and still put it to the last one. Where's my solder? We're going to put the last one to the last one, just like we did. And then we're going to take this outside one and swing it over to the inside. You see that? I'm going to give that one a little more solder. You swung it over. Okay. See that? Now we got to do the same to this one. So remember, I took the center lead, and went to the first pad. Took the center lead and went to the first pad. Then I took the last lead and went to the last pad, just like normal. Let me clean it. And we take the last pad and then we swap this one over to the center. All right. So now those two are done. And we can mount them back on the board here and do the same thing we did with these other two. Cut them to length, tin them, and solder them to the board. So I'm going to mount these other two motors back on cut these to length, tin them, and solder them to the board, and we'll be all ready for the next step. Okay, I got all the motors and ESCs back on. They're all soldered to the PDB. We went through the VTX and camera here already, and now we have to put the flight controller on. This flight controller only needs VBAT right here, power and ground, so we can solder that right to those two pads right there. But first we got to get rid of the spaghetti on the back here, and I'm going to show you how I'll go about doing that. Alright, let's do it. What I like to do is just start pulling them out real quick first. And what I'll do is I'll grab the gun. I should be doing this with my tiny tip, but I don't want to wait for it to cool down and heat up again. So we'll take it quick and pull all of these out of their through hole connectors. We'll clean up the through hole connectors and solder the new ESCs to the board. Okay, so there we are. We pulled all the old servo leads off. I never used this board. I got it all ready and was going to install it and never used it. So now we're going to use it. So at this point, what I like to do is pull out my helping hands, and I think I'm going to switch to the pencil tip. So we could pull out the helping hands. I'm going to put it with this side up because I'm a lefty. And what we're going to do is we're going to heat up this side of the hole and suck off the other side of the hole with the solder sucker. I'll be right back.